In this video, I'm going to show you how to sew a bra. This is a basic bra with a bridge, a cradle, an upper cup, and 2 lower cups. For this video, you're going to need your pattern. This can be any basic pattern, or you can use the pattern that I'm going to show you how to draft in another video. Straps, or you can just use a piece of elastic. Some sort of fabric, and this can be any type of fabric you like, whether it has stretch or no stretch. Elastic. I like to use a picot elastic or some sort of elastic with a little bit of detail. Underwires and channeling for your underwires. Optional bow details. And a back strap. These are all the pieces you'll need to actually make the bra. It may seem like a lot of pieces, but you're not using a lot of the fabric, so once you have these pieces, you can make quite a few bras out of the material. Then you'll need scissors or a rotary cutter. Weights can help cut the fabric, or you can use pins. We're going to start by cutting out our pattern. Because the pattern pieces are all quite small, a centimeter can make a really big difference, so it's important that we iron out our fabric. Then you can place your pattern pieces on your fabric, and you can either pin them down and cut around or use weights. I find it easier to use weights when you're working with delicate fabrics. For this pattern, here's the amount that we're going to be cutting for each pattern piece. This is pretty typical for the amount of pieces cut when sewing a bra. If it makes it easier for you to cut multiple pieces, you can also fold your fabric in half. If you're struggling using your scissors, you can also use your rotary cutter. So it's all just a preference if you want to use pins, scissors, rotary cutter, or your weights, but whatever makes it easiest to cut out your pattern pieces. Now with all of our pieces cut out, we're ready to start attaching. Some of the cups can look similar, so it's important to remember which one's which, and you can do this by adding little marks, maybe using an erasable pen, or just keeping them in their same piles. We're going to start by sewing our lower cup pieces, attaching right sides together. For most bra patterns, the seam allowance is going to be less than 1 centimeter, so I usually put my needle in the right position and sew right along the edge of the presser foot. You should now have 4 bra cups, and with those all sewn, we're ready to attach the upper cup. This is where it can be confusing, making sure which piece is which, so you have to remember the inside and the outside of your lower bra cup when attaching the upper bra cup piece. And then again, placing right sides together, you're going to attach all 4 of these pieces. You now have all 4 of your bra cups sewn. As you can see, having all 4 of these cups allows us to place wrong sides together and hide all the raw edges from the seam allowance. We're now ready to sew the rest of the bra to be able to insert those cups. We're going to start by placing right sides together of the bridge and sewing the top. Again, making sure to have very little seam allowance, or whatever the pattern calls for. You're then going to iron that seam and then flip, placing wrong sides together and iron it again flat. You've just created your bridge piece. Now we're ready to attach the cradle pieces to the bridge. So again, placing right sides together, we're going to place the bridge in between the 2 cradle pieces. We can pin those down and then do that for the other side as well. So when you flip the cradle pieces around to the other side, the seam will be on the inside of the 2 on the wrong sides of the fabric. So when you flip the right sides back around, it'll be the right sides of your fabric showing with all the seams on the inside. You're then going to sew along where you pinned on those 2 seams. Before attaching our cups, it's important that we trim away all the excess threads. We're now ready to attach our 4 pieces for our 2 cups. So we're going to place wrong sides together of our 2 cups lining up the seams. We can loosely place those in with a couple pins to make sure they don't move around while we're sewing. So as you can see, all the raw seams and raw edges are in between the 2 layers of the cups. You can pin in both cups at this time. So you can see that you've created a right side and a wrong side, that being the right side, and with the seams on the inside of the fabric there being the wrong side. You're then going to sew all those layers together, attaching your cups to the cradle and the bridge. The back band piece is going to be the last piece to add, and we only have 2 of these pieces. So on the cradle piece, you're going to fold in your seam allowance, place your back band piece, and then do the same with the second cradle piece, folding in the seam allowance and then pinning that down. As you can see, by placing that back band in between the two layers of fabric, it hides all the raw edges. When placing the back band, you want to make sure if there's a right side and a wrong side to your fabric, that the wrong side is facing the wrong side of the bra piece that you just created. And then you're going to do a top stitch right along the two places you pinned. With all of our pattern pieces now sewn together, we're ready to attach our elastic. If you're using a picot elastic, so an elastic with a detail, it's important that you do your first stitch with the detail facing up. You're going to do all this sewing with a zigzag stitch, and you're going to place the elastic on the right side of the fabric. So attaching the elastic right sides together, the right side of the elastic on the right side of the fabric. Remembering that the right side of the fabric is the one that doesn't show the seam allowance from attaching the cups. You're also going to trim away any of the extra fabric and threads that are poking below the elastic. We're then going to attach our other strips before doing our second stitch for the elastic. So the exact same as before, we're going to attach a piece of elastic on the top of the cup, making sure just to be sewing the two layers of the cup and none of the bridge. And then the other piece of elastic, again with the detail facing down on the side of your bra. You're going to do this for both sides. So for this step, we're going to be attaching 4 different pieces of elastic. The 2 elastics along the side and 2 over the cups. And then again, we're going to trim away all the excess thread and all the excess fabric that might be poking through. So now looking at the right side of the fabric, we're ready to fold our elastic over and do our second elastic stitch. The second elastic stitch is going to be a top stitch on the right side of the fabric with the elastic folded over. We're going to do this along all 5 of the elastic pieces that we just attached. The color of thread is important here because remember it'll be showing on the outside of the bra. And again, if any of the fabric is poking through the bottom, you want to trim that piece away first. And now you're ready to go to your machine and do your second zigzag stitch. With all the elastic done, we're now ready to attach our channeling, and this is where we're going to insert our wire. If you don't have any channeling, you can also use a bias strip of fabric for this piece. As you can see on another bra using the same pattern, the seam allowance has been tucked in under the channeling. So that's what we're going to do for here, making sure that all the seam allowance is hidden. As you can see, it's 2 stitches and the seam allowance has been pushed down. So we're now ready to do that for our bra. Pushing the seam allowance down, we're going to do our first stitch in the seam and our second stitch below that. Sewing our first stitch in the seam makes it so you can't see it on the top of the fabric. We can then just pivot our bra while continuing to sew and closing off one end of the channeling. You can then insert your wire now and close off your channeling. You can then trim away the channeling that you didn't use and all your loose threads. As you can see, once you add the channeling, it creates a lot more structure to your bra. Then you're going to do the exact same thing for the other side. The next step is to add your straps. You can use a pre-made strap as seen here, or you can just use a piece of elastic. The downside of using a piece of elastic is it won't have the adjustable option of the pre-made strap. I like to use my hand needle to attach these, and I'm going to use my hand needle to attach the bow at the front as well. However, if you'd prefer, you can use your machine to attach the straps as well. If you're using a pre-made strap, it's likely that it'll have a little loop at the bottom, which means you're going to have to attach another piece of elastic to attach it to the back of the bra, as I'm doing above. You want to make sure that when you're adding this piece, it's going to lie flat when you put it on. You're also going to flip down the top corner of the bra when you're attaching, so again there's no raw seams poking out. This part isn't too finicky and you can kind of do it how you like. But it's definitely important to try it on before you attach it to make sure your placement's right. You can also use this time to attach more bows. It can be fun to be a little creative with their placement. The final step is to add the adjustable back strap. I always start by trimming away any extra elastic that might be poking through, folding the back seam allowance over 1 centimeter and pinning down your strap. If you fold this over, you shouldn't see any raw edges, and again you can use your machine or your hand needle for this stitch. And you're all done! Thank you for watching, and if you liked the video, please subscribe.